Hello everyone, I'm here today to do my wrap-up for the Booktube Prize quarterfinals. So I first was not assigned a group, but at some point Robert emailed some of us saying that he needed one more judge, and I offered myself, and it happened that I had already read 3 of the books on my group, so I only had to read 3 books to finish the assignment. So it is the end of April right now, and I have finished my assignment 1 month early, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I was judging translated fiction. I don't know the group name, but I will put it in the description. And yeah, I'm going to go through the books from my 6th place to my 1st place, and talk a little bit about why I felt the way I felt. So in 6th place I have Khalil by Yasmina Khadra, and this book follows Khalil, who is a young man from Belgium that went to participate in the terrorist attacks of Paris, the ones where they blew up Bataclan, the disco, and went to several other places. And we learned pretty early that he, for some reason, he did not explode as a suicide bomber. And then we follow him after that, and what happened to him, what his thoughts were about that, and what he decides to do after that. So the writing of this book was very descriptive and very poetic at points, and I think it was good. I would be interested to read anything else from Yasmina Khadra. I think I read one other book by him, but it was a long time ago and I don't really remember it. But yeah, I might pick up something else from this author, but this book in particular, it didn't work for me because of the characters mainly. So the character of Khalil. So Khalil is an unlikable character, right? Because he is a suicide bomber and he's fully on board with the idea. He has not been forced into it or anything. Maybe brainwashed, but he is fully on with the idea. But when his belt doesn't blow up, when he doesn't blow up, we see him going back to his friends and family to take care of him until things settle down a little bit. And I really didn't understand why his friends were so understanding and so there for him, because he really was an unlikable person. He was annoyed at everybody. He didn't have patience for anything. Like, for example, when he didn't blow up, when he was alone in Paris without money or a passport or anything, he called his friend, his childhood friend, to come pick him up. And this friend lives in Brussels. That's like a 4-hour drive. And when he said that he couldn't go immediately, Khalil got really mad at him. Like, what's up with that? Like, if I am in Paris and I call a friend to come pick me up, suddenly without anything to say for myself, I would not expect them to be there like that. Of course they have things to do, right? So things like that annoy me, because Khalil always does these kind of things and he never shows like the soft side of himself. So I didn't understand why people would care for him and why people will help him. And even later, when some of them realized that he was a suicide bomber that didn't work out, they still like help him. And for me, we don't get enough from his childhood and how he was before he entered this association to justify the fact that he had all these friends and family that really care for him. So yeah, although I think it's interesting to have that conversation about suicide bombers, I think this was just, it was not successful because I don't think the character study was very realistic. I have read recently Home Fire by Camila Shamsi, which is a similar book. It's about a young man that joins ISIS. and the reaction of his family and his friends. And it happens that in Home Fire and in this book, the suicide bombers both have a twin sister. The twin sisters both have similar reactions to like love their brothers above anything else, and I guess that's to a point understandable, but everyone else shouldn't be on board with what Khalil is doing, so why are they still helping him? And also, like, once something happens to his sister at some point, and the way he reacts to that, that's also not very realistic. So yeah, this book was not, I don't think it was very successful as a character study, so that's why it's in 6th place. The next 3, on a different day, I could have chosen a different order, but for now, that this is how I'm placing them. So in 5th place, I put The Membranes by Ta-wei, and this book is a dystopian sci-fi book. It's set in a world in which the sun is so bright that humans will be fried, basically. Like, they would get skin cancer immediately if they lived on the surface of the planet, so they have moved to live on the bottom of the ocean. And there are some funny commentaries about how some dynamics change when that happened, because black people are more resistant to the sunshine, so all of a sudden black skin was a good thing, which I have always found that I'm always jealous that my husband doesn't have to use sunscreen. But yeah, so that happens. And the first half or so of the book, we follow this girl that she's a skin beautician, treatment dermatologist kind of thing. She has a clinic, and we very early on learned that she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother. And then something happens in the middle of the book, like a revelation in the middle of the book, and then the rest of the book kind of explains what like the details of that revelation, let's say. It's a very short book. It's like 130 pages, something like that. So it at times felt like a short story, like a long short story. But I put it in 5th place because the pacing was weird for a novel, which is, I understand what's trying to be. The pacing of nothing happening for half of the book, and then all of a sudden something really big happens, and then we just get the explanation, was like a bit weird for a novel. And also, in terms of the plot and the characters, it was not fully developed. I felt like the revelation itself felt a little bit forced to me, like not completely understandable to me, and also the characters were not fully developed. I don't feel like I really got to know the characters. So yeah, it was an interesting concept, but I'm not sure the execution was completely successsul. In 4th place, I put Heaven by Mieko Kawakami, and this one was one of the ones that I had already read before the prize, and I read it more than 2 years ago, so my memory of it's not the sharpest, but I have gone back and looked at my reviews and refreshed my memory on it. And I think that even though the writing was good and a lot of people love this thing, I felt that the philosophical conversations and the way that characters treat each other and all of that, it didn't feel engaging to me, even though horrible things happen. It's about bullying in a school, about this boy that is bullied, and then he meets this girl, and that she's also kind of bully, and they develop sort of a friendship, and they have very philosophical conversations about what is happening to them. I didn't feel like it was that profound. I don't have very vivid memories about the conversations. I think that in some parts the characters were really annoying, as sometimes teenagers are, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to read that much about it. I have read other books from Mieko Kawakami that I prefer to Heaven. So yeah, for me it was not the best. So it was a fine book. I would not tell anybody not to read it, but I also wouldn't recommend people reading it, if that makes sense. So yeah, for me it was okay. The book that I put in third place is Gerta by Katerina Tuckova, and this one is about Gerta, which is a woman in Czech Republic, but her mother is Czech and her father is German, and this is during and after the Second World War, mainly after the Second World War. So apparently, I didn't know, but in the Czech Republic, when the war ended, Germans were prosecuted and discriminated against because of what happened, what the German government did. But Gerta, for example, her father did horrible things. He was a Nazi, but she was not. She was in the Nazi youth for a couple of years, and then she decided she didn't want to do it anymore, and so she refused to go. And when the war ended, she was still considered as part of the Nazis because she was German, or her father was German, and her Czech side was completely ignored. So she did have a really difficult life, trying to sort of justify herself and like try to survive in a place where it's so hostile. And I really liked the historical part. I didn't know about that, and at the very beginning of the book, I thought this is going to be another narrative trying to justify the Nazis, but it's not. Gerta knows that her father was a horrible human, and she doesn't have any problem with people retributing to him. Like, she doesn't have a problem if people want to kill him, because she knows he did horrible things to use, but also to her. Like, he was also a very abusive man at home, so she doesn't have a problem with that, but she doesn't understand, or she doesn't think it's fair that she is put in the same category, which it's true, it's not fair, but that's how humans work, I guess. So yeah, we follow her and another set of women that had German origins during their lives, and yeah, I think it was a very interesting perspective that I have never thought about before and never knew about. However, in terms of the book itself, I found it way too long. I thought it was unnecessarily long, also because I didn't connect that much with the characters. So for such a long book, it's like 450 pages. For such a long book, not connecting with the characters, it is difficult. It drags a bit at times. So even though I appreciated what it taught me and what I learned, I didn't feel emotionally connected to the book until the last chapter. The last chapter is from the perspective of the daughter of this woman, of Gerta, when Gerta was dying, basically, and that, like, the daughter talks directly to her mother about how she felt, what she was doing, and how she had to leave, and that part I found very powerful. But the rest of the book, emotionally, it was not very compelling for me, so that's why it's in third place. And the next two, the 1 and 2 place spots, it's really difficult for me because I love both of the books that I'm going to talk about, but I had to choose a ranking, so this is how I chose. So in second place I put The Art of Losing by Alice Zeniter. I read this also a couple of years ago as a NetGalley proof, and I loved it. I made a separate review for it, so I'll link it somewhere. So this book is about immigrants from Algeria to France, and we follow in particular a family in which the grandfather was the one who emigrated, and then we see how that affected the sense of identity of both the father of the family and the daughter of the family. And I thought it was really powerful because it gave a lot of insight into what being an immigrant is, how you redefine your sense of home, how different people react to the same thing, because the father of the family has a very different relationship with Algeria than the daughter of the family, and like how people try to have roots in different places. So overall I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very insightful, and I also care a lot about these people and understood these people a lot. It hit home for me, so this one I think it's a really good book, and if someone is trying to understand what the immigrant's experience is, this one is a good resource to pick up and try to understand what being an immigrant is and what the challenges are. So yeah, if you want to know more in-depth details about this, I will link my review, but that's the sense of the book. And then in first place I put My Heart, which is something that I read in the first round of the Booktube Prize. And even though I probably enjoyed The Art of Losing better, I think My Heart is literally more accomplished. It's very poetic in tone. It's about a man from, I think it was Bosnia, that moved to the US, and it's divided in three parts. The first part is about himself and his heart, because he has heart problems. The second one is about the relationship with his son, and the third one is about the relationship with his wife, who also has health issues. And I found it very moving and very poetic and very accomplished. Also has like little illustrations throughout, which adds something always. And it talks about the immigrant experience from a different point of view, from a refugee running away from a really horrible war. And I thought it was very successful at what it did. And again, even though I think I enjoyed The Art of Losing better, I think objectively My Heart is the better book. So yeah, those are my rankings. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read any of these books, what you thought. If you have judged the Booktube Prize, let me know what group you did, and if you have any video that I should be watching. And until next video, bye!